Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Dan Myerson, who's Executive Chairman of Foran Mining Corporation, who are a diverse exploration and development company with projects in central Canada's Flin mining belt. And they are looking to develop the world's first carbon neutral copper mine. With a financial resources background, Dan has worked for financial institutions and mining companies during his career, and now spearheading this exciting project. And we are obviously keen to hear more. So let's welcome Dan to the podcast. How you doing, Dan?
Hello, Rob. Thanks for having me. It's very nice to be here.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time as well. So, as we always start off this podcast, I wanted you to give our audience a background about yourself, about your career, how obviously you got into mining, and then we can talk about obviously more about the company and the projects you're involved in.
Sure. I started in the industry many years ago with Morgan Stanley in their equity capital markets team out of Sydney, Australia. And while that was great, I was always more interested in the trading side of the business. And it was still at the time when Glencore were a private company, so they weren't really well known. But I met someone who worked for Glencore. He arranged an interview, and long story short, I ended up starting at Glencore within their traffic team, which is where most junior guys start on the way to become a trader. I was very fortunate in my career and came up through the ranks quite quickly as a concentrates trader, specializing in zinc, lead, and copper. And it was through that, I think, that I, whilst trying to become a better trader, I really started looking more downstream on the smelting side and on the metallurgical side of the business and trying to understand that a lot more. And I was very lucky in that Glencore, gave me so many opportunities to go actually, work at the sites and learn, on the job. And I found, experience is the best way to learn. And it really was. So I was very lucky to sort of work in a number of operations all over the world, in smelting and refining, and then went one step, further up the chain, I would say, and that was into the mining side and sort of specialized in underground mines. Was really lucky to work in Australia, Peru, Canada. So I really, that was where I saw the economics in let's say, combining assets with trading. That was Glencore's model, and it was just something that I absolutely loved. And then when Glencore bought Xstrata in 2013, it was almost, that they really didn't have many other people, but I was the one that got sent over to Canada to go sort of, see what the business was, assess the potential. And so I did that. And after 2 weeks, it was quite clear that there was a hell of a business to be had there, both on the trading as well as optimizing the assets. So I did that, for the last 7 years. And it was a fantastic experience for me. I'm extremely lucky. But I guess I'm most lucky because, through my time in Canada, and, not only was I optimizing and managing our overall assets as well as the trading business, but I was also looking for opportunities for growth. So both organic and M&A. And it was then that in 2015, I came across Foran Mining. It was when they drilled, they discovered their second deposit in their camp, which is called Big Stone. And they hit a 100-meter hole at 2% copper. There was, 3 grams per ton gold. There was a part of it with, I think, 7 meters of 27% zinc. So just phenomenal grades, an absolutely phenomenal hole. And I remember, seeing them release that hole to the market, and I looked and I was like, wow, this is a hell of a hole. But what was more surprising was that their shares got sold off that day. And I thought, I know this is bad times, because remember, this is 2015. This was a dark time, and the last decade has been very bad for base metals, but this was the worst of it. And I looked deeper, and then I saw, Pierre Lassonde, probably one of the greatest mining investors of all time, owned 10% of the company. There was another chap by the name of Darren Morecambe who owned around 15%. Both these gentlemen still do own those same percentages. And so I got in touch with them, and we had a meeting, and I said to them, I was like, guys, I mean, this is amazing find, congratulations. And they both said to me, they were like, yeah, look, no one cares. And I said, yeah, I was like, I do, and don't worry, everyone will soon. And these guys obviously got much more experience than me, and they said, look, to create value in a mining company, it's real simple. You need three things. So I said, okay. So I said, number one, you need a low cost, long life asset. So that was quite clear. They had that. And then they said, number two, you need to start the development of your asset and the further exploration at the right time in the pricing environment. And that was missing. So that was a key thing that was missing. And it's unfortunate, but for the mining industry to get going, you're subject, your means of financing are dependent on your equity. So to release these drill holes and do all this work by raising equity and then diluting yourselves and your other shareholders is just irresponsible. So it was unfortunate, but it was like a light bulb moment for me, because they explained it so simply, and it was just so clear that you have to wait for the right time to go, and that's when you can really create value for not only your shareholders but your stakeholders and the rest of society as a whole, by developing a project and building communities. So that was a big telltale moment for me. And before I finished, the third part of it, just for your listeners, was the third component of value creation was really to have an honest, credible, capable management team that's properly aligned with other stakeholders. And for us, there's no better way to be aligned than by owning as much of the asset and the equity as you possibly can. So that's what we do. It's what I do. I don't take a salary. My salary is all compensated basis equity, no cash. But we do these things, to set the standard in the industry. So that's what we, one of the things we try to do.
Yeah. Now that's a great story, and probably the right time to get in 2015. So I wondered if you tell us a little bit more about Fora, and obviously you've got a relatively unique approach to mining. I just wondered if you can tell us a little bit more about the vision and about the team.
Sure. So, well, the vision, I'd say what really sets us apart is sort of our focus on building a carbon neutral mine, and why we do that. We do that, number one, it's the right thing to do for the world. I would say that we've got we all living in a great oxymoron right now, in that, well, globally, we would love to decarbonize, but unfortunately, the way to decarbonize is to electrify. Now, to electrify, we need copper. Yet, the oxymoron is, to get the copper from the ground, you emit a lot of carbon. So, we've got to find a way to solve that. So, that was something that really drove our thinking a little bit more, in how we could be a bit more responsible in how we mine. Now, for us, we're very blessed to be in Canada, one of the best jurisdictions in the world. But more than that, we also have access to fantastic hydropower, so it's renewable energy. So we utilize that as our main power source. We're also looking at a number of other renewable energy projects. These are more to develop, assist with the community development around us as well. So we do these types of activities and investments. And then we utilize a number of other sort of technologies that have been around, but really in the last 2 to 3 years really became sort of industry acceptable. And by example of that would be sort of electric trucks, electric equipment, scoops, that sort of thing. So yeah, and then we do a number of other things on surface as well. For example, little things like using hempcrete rather than concrete. Hempcrete is carbon negative, so we do that. But also, I mean, it's actually cheaper than concrete. So for us, it's a no-brainer to do these kinds of things, really. And you also have to factor in, the strategic vision in the way the world is moving in the form of carbon taxes and other things like that. These costs are going to be borne by the operations, and we obviously want to make ours as economical as possible and as sustainable as possible. And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah. I understand your model is based on the combination of circular economics and ESG principles. I wonder if you can tell us more about the concepts that you plan to incorporate in the development of your deposits.
Sure. So, well, I would say by circular economics, I think we would refer to, when we think about that, that's more about thinking about the community that you operate in, and trying to build up as much as you possibly can there, and in your province as well as your country. So that's the way. When we talk about circular economies, that's the way we do it. And not only build up businesses around your mine, just build up a business from the mine, but build up other businesses around that. So that's a big focus for us. And then look, in terms of ESG, I think ESG is a buzz acronym that gets thrown around a bit too flippantly these days. It's very important for us, but really what it stands for, and that's environment, social, and governance. So the environment we touched on with our zero carbon approach. Social, I mean, people talk about assets being your number one asset in mining, but it's really people are your number one asset. So we spend a lot of time investing in our people, and that starts from the senior management team. And as we go about building our mine, that will reflect further into the communities, the country of Canada as well, and other places we choose to grow.
So just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the region of Saskatchewan where you're operating, just for people that are not in or don't know too much about Canada. Obviously, we have a lot of Canadian listeners, but those that are not in Canada, wondering if you can just give us a description of the region.
Sure. I would say Saskatchewan, or according to the Fraser report, it was voted, the third best jurisdiction in the world for mining. It's the number one jurisdiction in Canada out of all the provinces. I would say it's probably a very much an up and coming mining jurisdiction, particularly for base metals. But it's fantastic. The government there are amazing. We are very lucky. They are very engaged. They understand the importance. They understand of mining to the economy, the importance of responsible mining. They're very engaged in terms of community involvement and development. And yeah, I mean, we're very, very lucky. It's rare that you can have such a good dialogue directly with certain regulatory bodies and authorities and ministers in government, but they enable that, and it's to their credits why they will advance their economy so much quicker than probably most, I would say.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about the deposit at McIlvenna Bay and the uniqueness and potential it actually has?
Sure. So McIlvenna Bay is our first deposit that we plan to bring into production. It's the first of we have quite a few deposits as well as new targets. It's a VHMS camp, which typically, the deposits appear in clusters. And McIlvenna Bay, it's copper, gold, silver, and zinc. So polymetallic, just a fantastic mix of metals. And would be, our copper sort of all-in cost is 44 cents per pound. So we Q1 on the first quartile. What else? We're very lucky that all our infrastructure is already built as well. So you have an all-access road that is connected to rail as well. So we don't have to spend any money on the infrastructure there. So that's fantastic. The deposit itself starts just below the dolomite, so about 30 meters below surface. And yeah, it's open, up dip, down dip, along strike. We've been having some fantastic results, as you probably would have seen, released to the market. But yeah, we're just finishing up our drill program there at McIlvenna Bay. We actually going to extend it a fair bit now, given the success that we've had just on the up dip part of the deposit. But then we're more excited, not more excited, but equally excited to start testing some of our new discoveries in the rest of our camp. And start sort of demonstrating how we will sequence these into production with the McIlvenna Bay deposit with Big Stone via our centralized mill.
Yeah, I wondered if you can give us tell the audience a little bit about those results for those that may not be aware of.
Sure. So I'd say probably the most recent results would be the most relevant for you. So we just intercepted about 40 meters of copper mineralization, across sort of 4 zones of the deposit, which is it's huge for us for a number of reasons. I mean, the width of it can now increase your tons per vertical meter. So not to get too technical, but it effectively allows for a greater amount of ore to be mined, more than provisionally thought. The grades were fantastic in that, they were between 2 and 3.5% copper. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot more to come. We've got a drill program now that will probably go until the end of 22. So, while we start to build the McIlvenna Bay deposit, we will continue drilling not only some of the up dip section of McIlvenna Bay, but as well as the rest of the Hanson Lake district in our camp, which for us is very important because it's part of our strategy, in that we don't want to just stop exploration. Exploration is very important to us, particularly for our life of camp approach.
The recent investment by Prem Watsa, Fairfax Financial, is obviously a great boost to the company. How did that come about, and what does that mean for the business in the market?
Yeah, that's huge for us. We're still pinching ourselves a little bit at Prem and his team. I'd say it's so big because Prem's known as being the Warren Buffett of Canada. Him and his chief investment officer Wade Burton, they typically don't invest in mining. So for them to make a foray into mining like they have with us, it's so positive for us in that it just adds credibility, and we didn't think we could find a better long-term partner than them, and they share our passion for responsibility, for safety, and for ultimately that it will create superior returns, and we're very grateful again.
Yeah.
So.
And what did they see in the company and the project, or was it a combination of both and the people involved?
I can't speak too much for them. I think they obviously look. Ultimately, I think they agree there was a fantastic asset. I think they very much liked our vision and were aligned with our values, and for that, and I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess you might have to ask them. I'm sorry, I can't give you a better answer.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wondered if they gave you any reasons as to why they invested in you. Was it? I take it would probably be the combination of the asset, the management team, and obviously the potential. But no, that's fine. That's a question that they can answer.
Yeah, yeah.
So, as a conclusion, what's the future of Foran Mining? And I suppose looking over the short to medium term.
So continue to build it and demonstrate that we can generate superior economics and superior returns for, you know, our shareholders, our stakeholders, and society as a whole. But ultimately, look, we want to make mining sexy, and we want to attract the best people to the industry. You know, typically the young generation today and the bright people and would all work at the Googles and Facebooks and Tesla and all of that. We want to be that company as well, and I think mining is one of the last sort of industrial industries that's yet to truly revolutionize and technologize, and yeah, we would love to attract some of that talent to our industry and provide a springboard for them to do great things and ultimately change the world for the better.
Yeah, certainly. Really appreciate your time, Dan, in giving us an overview of Foran Mining and obviously the exciting project that you're undertaking in Canada. It's certainly one that I'm going to watch and take notice of over the coming years. It sounds like a great opportunity, and obviously wish you well in your endeavours. So, if our audience wants to reach out and have any questions that they want to ask you, how can they go about doing that? Are you on any social media?
I'm still getting going with the social media. I'm not very good at it. I typically try to stay away from it. But yes, we are on LinkedIn. So if they look for Dan Myerson or Foran Mining, that would be best. And otherwise, I would encourage them to reach out to our email, which would be, I'm not going to give my personal one, but I'll give the company one, which is ir@foranmining.com.
Yeah, no worries. We'll put that in the show notes accompanying this podcast. So really appreciate your time, Dan. Gave a great account of Foran Mining and the potential the project has. So the audience listening, hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have got any questions and you want to reach out to Dan, he's given the email address which will accompany the show notes of this podcast. So they will be there. Guys that are watching on the YouTube channel, appreciate if you can like and share below. So this reaches more people within the mining community, especially if they search on YouTube or Google. Obviously, mining videos, mining podcasts, etc. Hope you enjoyed listening. I certainly did. And until next time, happy mining.